everybody, and welcome to Epic Everyday, our weekday podcast for busy, stressed out Christians who want to really thrive. I'm Liz Frericks, and this is my husband, Evan.
Good morning.
And we're so glad you guys are here with us on this wonderful Friday.
Yeah, it's Friday, so...
Happy Friday, all you Friday people.
Yes. And thank you for being here listening to the show with us. Pray that this show would bless you in your walk with God. And if you are benefited by this episode, if it makes you think, if it improves your prayer life or helps you, with this idea of hitting bottom like we've been talking about all week, please share the show with somebody.
Since it is Friday, we are going to talk about complete as our CSC. Being complete is kind of a lot. It encompasses a lot, but it's being your entire self all the time.
Yeah.
It really is what it comes down to. So you're not fragmented, you're living authentically. You're the same person no matter who you're with. And you're not stuck in the past or the future on the worry regret spectrum. You're just here and now. And you're engaging with the world as it actually is. You're not in denial. You're not stuck in some alternate universe where you have this perspective on things that's not true. You're just using your whole self here and now and dealing with what actually is.
Yeah, and you might listen to that definition and be like, okay, yeah, easy enough. But I think if we really meditate on that and look at places in our life where there's stress, some
it's
of
not
that
actually
stuff, yeah,
that easy.
Something on that list is probably breaking down, causing stress.
Right. Yeah, well, it's, at least for me, it's so hard to just be present in the moment and not get focused on, okay, this is what I'm going to do after I'm done with what I'm doing right now. Mm-hmm. But just to be here and now and worry about that stuff when the time to do that stuff comes.
Yeah, it is hard. I mean, we live in a society that, thinks everybody can multitask all the time. We can,
right.
We have ways to do that. At least it appears that we can multitask. But anyway, when we're talking about hitting bottom and this idea of complete, we talk about needing to get over something, like maybe a bad feeling or a bad experience or maybe our sin to some extent, like we get over it. That means we've conquered it somehow or it's over now, right? Mm-hmm. But I think what we really do in life and what's more fulfilling is to get through things. And because God walks through things with us, he's a man, like Jesus is a man. He's experienced the same temptations that we have. And so we don't just there's a subtle difference between getting over something, which kind of just means I've never really dealt with it, but I'm putting it out of my mind now.
Right.
Versus getting through it, which is, okay, I'm going through this right now. I'm experiencing this. I'm choosing to hit bottom so that I don't dig myself into a deeper hole. And I'm going to deal with this issue and I'm going to abide and hold God's hand the whole way.
I really love that idea. I love also the getting through it as in not getting stuck.
That's right.
I think sometimes we get stuck at a certain stage of the development process, as if hitting bottom is like, okay, now I'm a baby in the process of climbing back up the hole. We don't want to get stuck as a baby or stuck as a kid or stuck as a teenager. We want to keep moving.
Yeah, that's easy to do. We make some progress, like maybe we're more honest with ourselves and with our friends or our spouse or our pastor, and we're like, hey, this is pretty cool. And then the process stops.
Right.
Like, we're supposed to be growing.
Yeah. There's never a point where it's like, okay, I'm done. Good.
Yeah. And, there's this concept that I've heard in 12-step 2 where, like, somebody might start coming to a meeting because they hit bottom. They're like, I got to deal with this problem. And then maybe they disappear. And then they come back a few years later and like, I really hit bottom this time. I really need help. That's the thing. We can continue to dig ourselves. You can't dig out of a hole anyway, right? But that's what we try to do. Or we can decide to really hit bottom now and start dealing with things. And that's kind of the option that we've been presenting all week. And the only way to get through it and out of the hole is through all the things we talk about, things like surrender and being authentic and things like that. And, seeing our situation for what it is and being present and being complete.
Yeah, we want to do the work so that we can be our entire selves. Because so often, I don't know, when you think about hitting bottom, so often it does involve dealing with the 3 areas of complete. Because either you're being someone else, around certain people, or even around yourself. And you're like, okay, this is my addiction time, or this is my, whatever it is that you need to hit bottom in. Like, okay, this is my sin time. And you act like a totally different person there than you do the rest of the time. So you're fragmented in yourself. Or you are, carrying all this emotional baggage, and that's the coals that are causing whatever the sin is, whatever the flames are. And so until we actually do the work of processing through those, so we're actually able to be in the present and not to be stuck in the past and, carrying all the weight of our baggage from the past and all the worry of the future, but just being able to be here and now and trust God to take care of us, or the other thing, dealing with life as it is. If we're in denial, if we're not hitting bottom, it's because we don't realize the cost of our sin.
Yeah. And that reminds me, I think on Monday we mentioned the story of the prodigal son, and we talked about how it really ought to be called the story of the two lost brothers, and how the older brother refuses to celebrate the return of his brother. They thought his younger brother went away and wasted his inheritance, and people might have thought that he died, just because he just went so crazy. And then he finally shows up, and the older brother in that story he's refusing to hit bottom. He's refusing to acknowledge that he has hurt his father just as much as the younger brother did because of, it's not mentioned in the story, but other private kind of ways to rebel. He definitely resents his father because he talks to him so rudely, and he says, "You never let me have a party with my friends." Like he sees himself as a slave to the father instead of a son. He says, "I've worked for you, and now you owe me, and you're wasting part of my inheritance throwing a party for this loser." So he is not seeing his sin. He's seeing the sin of everyone around him, and he's not hitting bottom. And he's not seeing the actual situation, which is, I have this amazing father who his heart is full of forgiveness and reconciliation and love, and he's generous, and I'm his son, and everything he has belongs to me because he already gave his inheritance to my brother.
Right.
Like, I'm in a pretty amazing spot here, but he's not seeing any of that. He's not in the real world. He's somewhere else, caught in, and that's because he's not willing to acknowledge his desperate need for his father to deal with him the way that his father's dealing with his brother.
One of the things I was thinking about was Christopher Paolini's Inheritance trilogy. Except it wasn't a trilogy. It was $4. Inheritance Cycle, I think is what he ended up calling it.
The dragon book?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Aragon, and then I think Brissinger, and then I don't remember. But
this trilogy with the bonus book.
Yeah, it's a trilogy with a bonus book. But one of the concepts he has in there is this idea that you attach spells to the essence of a person by knowing their true name. Mm. And once that spell is anchored in their true name, they're just stuck. Unless they can become someone else. Oh. Which I just love that idea that, because I think so many of our vices, so many of our sin, it is anchored in who we are. We've been talking about that all week. It's anchored in these emotional problems, in our baggage, in whatever is going on with us. And as we grow, as we become someone else, the anchor loses its hold. And that's how we can move through instead of getting stuck at any point in the development process.
Yeah, and that's a natural human process. I mean, children grow up, you're not who you were when you were 5, like that's normal.
Right.
But at some point, like we also said earlier in the week, we kind of just stop for some reason. Right. We figure we've grown up now, but we never want to get caught in that mindset.
Yeah, we want to maintain a growth mindset through our whole lives because there is such incredible freedom in allowing God to bring us through. Okay, I'm going to grow in this area, and now I'm going to grow in this area, and now and it's this, going deeper and deeper and encompassing more and more of your life, and there's more and more freedom and abundance and peace and joy. It's so great. I don't know why anybody doesn't want to do it, even though... I remember when I was there, when I was first starting the process, and I was just so overwhelmed and so stressed out at how am I ever going to get through this mess? I don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
But half the battle is starting.
Right. And yeah, trusting God to bring you where you need to be and putting people in your life that you need to talk to and to learn from. And yeah, putting our feet on the path and surrendering to God and say, okay, take me where I need to be, because this is not wherever I've got, doing it my way is not where I want to be.
Yeah.
And that's the essence of hitting bottom, is saying, I've ended up here. I don't even really understand how I got here, but this place is awful. I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go somewhere else. And God's ways sound like that's the direction I want to go in.
As always, pick whether today is going to be awesome or not, whether you're going to strengthen those neural pathways to look for good things, to look for the things that you're thankful for, to look for the ways God's working, or if you're going to look for the things that are not so great.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, it's a matter of what are we paying attention to? Do you give more attention to the negative things and the stress and the things that bring you down, or the ways, God's grace and God's provision and God's attention to you?
Because whatever we're looking for, that's what we find. And so that's what we see more and more of in our lives. And that kind of sets the trajectory for where we're headed. We love you guys, and we are praying for you. Thanks to everybody that's been listening to the show and sharing the show. We really appreciate it. If you have found this episode helpful, please do share it. And come back next week, and we're going to talk about doing hard things. Yeah.
That's a lot of life, isn't it? And it's important.
But
we resist.
It's true, because it's hard.
All right, well, we'll sort it all out next week.
Yep. You guys have an awesome weekend.